They tried to butcher Summoner Necromancer in Season 5, but you can still play it and it still shreds bosses. That being said, we have to do quite some tweaks to the build, since they ruined the Blighted Aspect. It used to give 240% multiplicative damage to everything if you trigger the Shadow Blight. Now that is down to 50% and a maximum of 100% on your two-handed weapon, which means a huge loss of damage, but we can offset this. And not only can we offset it, we have the Curse Aura back, automatically casting Decrepify, and we can bring Corpse Explosion back. Let's break down the new gameplay loop. Step 1, you don't have any essence anymore, because the new aspect of the Great Feast drains all your essence to give your minions a 45% damage multiplier. That's cool, another multiplier always rocks. And this doesn't impact your gameplay at all, since our boots are automatically casting our Decrepify and Iron Maiden. Yes, Decrepify and Iron Maiden at the same time, another layer of damage, and we don't rely on essence in any case, which means that Decrepify goes out of your skill bar and we can get the Blighted Corpse Explosion back, another source of lucky hit, another source of Shadow Blight key passive stacking, and you can finally consume corpses not only to raise the Skeletal Priest, we're consuming corpses to actually add a bonus layer of damage. And if we would now be playing, instead of the Golem Necro, the Skeleton Mage Necromancer, which I'll give you an updated build for as well, with the Turiel's Might, that triggers Turiel's Might explosions whenever you use a skill. Well, sir, we get one hell of a monster back in action. Now, that being said, let's focus on the Golem Necro first, because I don't have Turiel's Might yet. And one of the coolest things is how goddamn fast the Shadow Blight key passive stacks up now. I mean, look at it. This is 10 stacks, correct? And it goes down, back up again, without me using a single skill. And that is because my minions now have a shadow damage aura. Shademist aspect. Your minions deal 1000 shadow damage per second to enemies surrounding them. The damage over time lasts for 3.6 to 5 seconds after leaving the aura. Yeah, your minions continuously now do shadow damage and overstack the Shadow Blight key passive, and it does damage, and you always get the bonus. Sure, the bonus is now nerfed to 75% instead of the 150% that it was before. Half the damage on an amulet. I do believe, though, we can push back on this because the nerf was too severe. This should at least be a 100% bonus, if not a 125% bonus. Halving the damage was too much. Now, the interesting part about the Shademist aspect, it says your minions deal 1000 shadow damage per second. And since your minions do more damage from your skills with Gloom, when you damage enemies with Darkness skills, they take another 6% increased damage, and that stacks up to 18%, plus Terror, which is another 18% multiplier. This also applies to your minions, and subsequently to the Shademist aspect. Right now, it's not 100% working with the scaling, but boosting your shadow damage will also boost the Shademist in the future, that you can then have your minions deal even more damage. Technically, every multiplier, like the Army of the Dead, and like the Great Feast with a 45% bonus damage, should also multiply this up. Same goes for the aspect of reanimation with another 40% damage multiplicative to your minions. It doesn't exactly do that yet, but we're working with the Diablo partner Discord on getting this fixed ASAP. Disregarding, Shademist is already fantastic, which has us build our skills different. The first 2 points go into Bone Splinters, then we get the 3 points into Hoot Flesh with Unliving Energy so we can advance further, and we're playing the Blood Mist into the Ghastly Blood Mist for the corpses, together with the Grim Harvest and the Fueled by Death, boosting our Skeletal Warriors as well. Now the Corpse Explosion is back into Blighted Corpse Explosion, which gives us another source of lucky hit, because every single corpse we can explode now is not just raising Skeletal Priest 5 times to get the 40% Flesh Eater Paragon node. Now, no, we're raising one Skeletal Priest, and then 8 seconds long, we're spamming the Corpse Explosion. The interesting part about Corpse Explosion is that it gets 2 times your attack speed bonus. This ring is giving me 17.6% attack speed to me. For the Corpse Explosion, that's actually 35% attack speed. Yes, for some reason, every attack speed into the Corpse Explosion just doubles, which means you can explode corpses way faster than you can raise skeletons, and therefore get your Flesh Eater Paragon node just consistently pop as well, as long as you have enough corpses, which you always have. bringing us to 2 points into Death Embrace with 3 points into Death Approach and the amplified damage for the bonus damage multiplier. We're still playing the Decrepify with a lucky hit for the cooldown reduction, and technically you could take out the points out of Death Embrace to yoink them into Iron Maiden, because your auto curse aspect also applies Iron Maiden, and Iron Maiden can give you essence, which you don't need, but Iron Maiden could also heal you. Yes, whenever someone dies, I would get a heal, which makes maybe dungeon pushing a bit easier since your Thyses are not doing life on kill anymore. They actually boost minion damage. And yes, you need a new weapon, plus the Skeletal Mage Mastery for more Skeletal Mage damage. Then Corpse Tendrils to make vulnerable. 1 single point into Necrotic Carapace is enough. And we're finally boosting the Gloom again for the Shadow Minion damage stacking, for the Shadow Minion stacking damage even more. We get a bit more movement speed, but most importantly, Crippling Darkness is back. Darkness skills have up to a 15% chance to stun enemies for 1 second, which is another source of stagger. And since we're now stacking Corpse Explosion with a Blighted Corpse Explosion, this will trigger inevitably to get you even more stagger. Into the bottom and the Golem a Mastery push together with Army of the Dead. And finally, Hellbent Commander is insane because it says while you control at least 7 minions, your minions deal 80% increased damage. Gone the have to be close to minions. Yes, you do less damage with Hellbent Commander now, but you always do that less damage. Your minions just have to exist, you just have to exist, and it's an 80% damage multiplier with the bonus ranks in it. Sure. And this is especially great if you're playing the Shadow Mage build, because you're not always standing next to your Shadow Mages or your Warriors, or you have to choose one or the other. Like this, everyone always has the damage boost. Lastly, the Shadow Blight Key passive, which now triggers more often than ever. So you kind of want to boost your shadow damage a wee bit to have this do even more damage, since the Shadow Blight Key passive can actually, and that plays a big role in our Paragon board. But first, the gear. We talked about the Shademist on your offhand, and yes, you need a one-hand and an offhand now. And here we're looking for in max life crit chance, and then minion attack speed and golem damage. If you boost your minion attack speed big enough with your weapon and your offhand, could forego playing the Frenzied Dead aspect easily. I'm kind of like 15% attack speed off right now. Now your first ring is running Army of the Dead with a Golem damage tempering and the cooldown reduction on the Golem or for the Army of the Dead. Works both attack speed, critical strike damage, rather critical strike chance here, because you want your critical strike chance as big as possible. Same kind of goes here. We have the crit chance instead of the damage, and then even more Golem damage, which gets nicely multiplied up. Ranks to Hellbent Commander are non-negotiable. You want these, plus even more Golem damage, and then ultimate cooldown reduction or Golem cooldown reduction. Whatever you can get there. Don't freak out if you get ultimate cooldown reduction. It's still good. Don't freak out if you get Golem cooldown reduction. Both are an option. Your weapon should be a Scythe, because the Scythe's intrinsic stat is more minion damage. Critical strike damage is nice too, but boosting the damage of all your minions just works perfectly. Then damage, critical strike damage, then damage or int, critical strike damage, minion attack speed, golem damage. And new Great Feast aspect, minions deal 45% bonus damage. They drain your essence though. Doesn't matter we get our essence drained because we don't need essence anymore. Since we get these beautiful boots that say you automatically curse enemies around you with Decrepify and Iron Maiden. Ta-da! Curse inflicted this way spreads surrounding targets every 1.3 seconds and lasts 4 seconds outside of the aura. But as long as they're in the aura, they're essentially cursed, and the curse lasts in general for 10 seconds on your main target. The only thing we could do here is having the curse size tempering affect the actual Iron Maiden aura, which it doesn't sadly do yet. On the boots, you do want movement speed. I choose armor actually and maximum life. That movement speed just has you zoom around and be able to walk out of every boss echo, because the boss echoes are now doing multiplicative damage, which is annoying. The aspect of the Hardened Bones is still played, and we have a lucky hit for too slow. And the lucky hit to slow is now more interesting than ever. It could be lucky hit to stun or lucky hit to freeze as well, because that lucky hit tempering works perfectly well with the stacking of corpse explosions too for even more stagger against bosses. We play Skeletal Mage Master, even more maximum life and armor to really get the armor cap. And then on the gloves, there's the aspect of reanimation for the next 40% damage multiplier, which then with the Great Feast is 40%, 45%, and you get the Blighted Aspect for the 75%, which used to be 150 or 240%. You notice how the Great Feast is kind of trying to give us back some of the damage that we get stolen, but we're still not getting to the old value yet. Golem damage and Corpse Tendril size are two very good tempers, but we also have a new defensive tempering. Skeletal Mage Master critical strike chance work nice, and you need attack speed. Now, the new defensive tempering is interesting. Currently, I do have maximum life on this one. But the new Necromancer wall gives you a 40% chance for minion attacks to fortify you for 3% of your maximum life. Not really needed for this build because we always fortify, but for every other Necro build, this is one defensive tempering if you're playing minions to instantly fortify you without a single issue. That works explicitly well for Blood Surge and for the Bone Spirit Necro that's actually running minions. You want that Golem Mastery on your chest with a maximum life and definitely not life per second. Rather crank out some intelligence here. The helmet is running my Skeletal Warrior Mastery with bonus skeletons. The maximum life curse duration kind of works. I would put on a curse size if the curse size would then affect the aura, and we have to work on this, plus cooldown reduction. And lastly, on the amulet, we wanted to have the Blighted Aspect, as we're pushing back now to get the Blighted Aspect to do more damage than ever. For the Warriors, we're still playing the Reapers. Yes, we're missing out on the cooldown reduction with the wind-up now. This used to do both. We need the corpses, though, to always have enough corpses, continuously trigger the Flash Eater node, do your corpse explosions, stack the lucky hits, get the enemy stunned, staggered, and everything. Shadow Mages are still the Shadow Mages for the bonus shadow damage, and Golem is still the Blood Golem for the triple damage. And that one actually didn't change. This dude still does do the triple damage, and all the other Golems are useless, but he now leaps forward, which looks fantastic and creates some very funny moments. It doesn't have him lag behind anymore. Paragon board got a bit spicy, and we could add new stuff to it. First, we're going to start with the Exploit Glyph, because it's very easy to take without much effort. So if you do actually have enough intelligence on your gear, you can forego this resistance to all elements for the bonus damage on the right side. And then we're going upwards into the Bone Graft board for the max life, max life, max life, max life, together with the Essence Glyph for that crazy critical strike damage multiplier with some more resistance. And again, if you have enough intelligence on your gear, forego these points. You don't need them. Into the Golem board with all the Golem damage you can take, plus the Dead Razor Glyph, because this one gives you the most Golem damage, since it not only multiplies up these, it also multiplies up the rare node, taking some more down here in the bottom with the bonus attack speed. Into the Cult Leader board with now Corporal here, and Corporal does get you more damage reduction and more summoning damage very easy with the Cult Leader fully boosted out. Following up into that Flash Eater for the bonus resistance to all elements and the bonus damage to elites, plus critical strike damage, doesn't hurt to actually get. With the next board being Bloodbath, and here we activate the Darkness Glyph, which gives us a bonus shadow damage for us, the Shadow Mages, and for the Shademist aspect, which should be boosted by this as well, and another 10% damage multiplier whenever you or your minions deal shadow damage to an enemy. And well, my minions always do shadow damage to an enemy. They do 10% less reduced damage. We take 10% reduced damage from them. And my minions have a shadow aura now, so my minions exist and we get damage reduction. That's insane. Thank you very much. The best damage reduction you can essentially get, which makes you want to think that we could actually add the Wither board in some capacity, because there's another damage reduction from shadow damage over time affected enemies. And well, they're always now shadow damage over time affected kind of. So, I mean, if we want bonus defense, there would be a way to weasel that out as well. But we do need the Golem Glyph together with the Send of Death then for even more damage reduction, or the bonus damage if we manage to actually corpse explosion with the super attack speed every single corpse, which we could actually get done. But now with this new level of damage reduction and all the bonus damage, we're kind of looking very juicy. What is it going to be, ladies and gentlemen? The Golem Necro still back in action, or rather interested in that absolute amazing Bone Spirit build that we experimented with, that is now stronger than ever, using a ginormous bone prison? It is so much fun with the new unique boots. If you want to see those experiments, here's a live stream and the Bone Spirit build, how it currently works in Season 4 in a guide build as well. Don't worry, there will be an updated Bone Spirit video with all the updated Necromancer stuff and all the other classes as well, following as soon as Season 5 drops, and with more info as the PDR is closing on all the updates. Have a fantastic good day, and thank you for supporting and watching.